And here with us, Carlos Garcia. He's a clinical psychologist. Carlos, thank you for being here. And let's start speaking about fear. What is it?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Pilar. Yeah, let's talk about fear. Fear is basically a wired ingrained mechanism in our brain that alerts us to problems, that alerts us to something that can be dangerous to us. So if we think about this from an evolutionary perspective, fear is actually a good thing. It allows us to prepare the body, the fight or flight, to prepare the body for potential danger. That's great when we were cavemen and we needed to face a saber-toothed tiger. Not so great when we're sitting behind a cubicle and feeling constant stress from day to day. So while fear is a good thing, the worry that comes with fear oftentimes is not. Although I will say a brief thing about worry. We often judge worry and think it's a really horrible thing, but worry also is beneficial in that as human beings, it allows us to look into the future to see potential problems that may arise for us and to think of possible solutions, right?
So it's not that fear or worry or even anxiety is wrong or bad itself. It's what we do with them, or how long it stays with us, or what are we worrying about? What will be those differences?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing and the biggest difference is that we believe that we can control things that are out of our control, right? Or we believe we can control things that are in the future. And so when we wrap our minds around thinking that we can do that, or we have the capacity to do that, that's where worry turns into anxiety. Because now we're thinking about all possible outcomes and all possible solutions, and then we just sit in our minds doing something that I call ruminating, right? Which is like a little hamster.
Speaking, we are thinking in the negative one more than in the positive ones?
Yes. And so we're like the little hamster, right, in the wheel that can't get off. And so not only are we thinking of all these possible solutions, but oftentimes we might tend to think of the worst possible scenarios. Right? So not just the good things, but what if the worst possible thing happens to me? And that, if that gets track of your mind, then you'll see it's like a domino effect, and that's where anxiety and really severe worry starts to come into place.
So what to do then? So worry comes. What will be that first step? Do not ignore it. Think about something else. Think about positive solutions from your perspective. What is the next step in order to not having controlling us?
Yes, I would say the first thing is to acknowledge that you're worrying, right? And use that as sort of a sign that there's some level of discomfort that's going on for us internally. I would say the second thing is to not judge it, right? We're like, oh my God, I'm worrying. I shouldn't be worrying. Worrying is not good for me. Worrying's not going to help me solve the problem. And we just get more and more worried, right? So not judge it, knowing that it's just a common thing for all of us. And I would say the third thing is, I am not a big proponent of think positive. Actually, I think just thinking positive can actually make us feel worse because we know we're lying to ourselves. If our life is falling apart and we're like, no, I'm going to wake up today, everything is perfect, we're not going to trick our mind that easily. But think realistically. I wake up today and there are some things in my life that are not good, but I'm also surrounded by family and people that love me. And if I think about it, in my life, there's a lot of times that I've overcome adversity. And I can do that again, right? So thinking realistically, not just positively, helps put that worry and keep it in place.
Or focusing in the positive way of seeing things in a realistic way. That's
perfect. I love how you put that.
Because sometimes people think, oh, positive is all good, roses. No, but it's seeing the good in the bad without not thinking is there. So confronting emotions. What other type of emotions have you seen before these ones that you just mentioned, especially during these times that people are confined? It's taking longer than some of them may think. Some people really need to go back in business, the financial situation, health scares. So what other emotions, because we usually speak about 2 or 3, sad, happy, and that's it, but there are many different others that people don't recognize. The spectrum is huge. What others could we take a look at?
Well, one of the things that I think eventually most of our emotions come down to is either fear or sadness, right? So we can feel disconnected, but we feel disconnected and then we feel what? We feel sadness or a level of rejection. Even when we're just feeling rejected or alone, it's because we're feeling some level of sadness. Anxiety, the root cause is a fear of not having control over the things in our life. So you're right, there's a broad spectrum of emotions, but I think if we really boil it down and we narrow it down and really ask ourselves, what am I experiencing in this time? It's because we're trying to avoid any level of pain, right? Number one, we have such really strong beliefs in our culture and many other cultures around sadness, right? It's weak, you shouldn't feel sad, suck it up. Now, the process of
do not cry, do not feel that way.
Yeah. Can you imagine telling someone who's experiencing, let's say, the death of a loved one, you shouldn't feel sad, you have nothing to feel? You would never say that, right?
And sometimes it comes from a good place, like do not cry. Why are we going to stop that?
Right. So that takes me to my sort of next point is oftentimes we hear that from a very early age. And it's very well-intentioned, meaning parents like, oh, I'm going to make my kid stronger. But imagine hearing a message of, it's not okay to cry, it's not okay to feel sad, it's not okay to feel down, right? That's where we start attributing these beliefs about this is bad and I shouldn't do it. So then guess what? In real life, there are things that make us sad. And so then we experience the sadness, and like we were just talking about, then the judgment on top of that. And then it just sort of exacerbates that symptom, right? It exacerbates that emotion. So that's why I think it's brilliant what you said, being aware of the emotions we're having and just allowing ourselves to have them, reminding ourselves that we're human and humans have emotions.
Mm-hmm. And changing those beliefs little by little. If you recognize it, you don't have to believe them necessarily, right?
Right.
Okay. How important is to have some type of structure during our day, a routine? Because everybody's world changed suddenly. And some people meditate, some people think like, oh, I don't meditate, I don't believe in that, I don't know how. Some people are okay being inside, some people need to be outside, all different type of things. Some people were used to go to an office, now they feel like, oh, what am I gonna do here? Besides having the kids and all the other parts. Some people have been doing it for a while. So what would you suggest in that structure, and from your experience, why is important to have it?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I think, Pilar, this pandemic has really thrown people off of their routine and sort of the way that they were experiencing and living their lives. And so obviously that would create an internal sense of distress, anxiety, and maybe even panic. What I know is that as human beings, we function better with routine and structure, right? It gives us more certainty and control over our lives, or at least some sense of control, right? But we perform better in structure. And so this pandemic, what it's done is that it's sort of taken that rug out from under us. And now we're like, okay, I don't have control of, now I have to be a teacher to my students, or maybe now I've lost my job and what am I going to do about the income, or how am I going to protect my family, or I can't go out to the store and provide, a meal for my family. All of these things are being thrown out of whack. And so the following tips are as a way to fulfill our need, our internal wired need for routine and distraction. This isn't saying you should be doing these things because if not, you're a bad person, or you should judge yourself, or I can't believe you're not being healthy. It has nothing to do with that, but because we function well. So one of the things would be to have a little bit better of a routine around food. It's so easy to sit around with snacks all day, chocolate, my favorite, and sit in front of the TV and sort of snack on foods. But one of the things we know is that certain foods can impact our mood negatively. Right. And so maybe having a structure, meal planning throughout the day so that you're just not going to that pantry and feeding all
comfort,
day.
Like, oh, I feel this way. And you find excuse to eat it. I love chocolate too, but it's being aware as well.
Yeah.
It's not bad to have chocolate, but if you are going to sit down and have chocolate for hours.
Right. And so not letting these things sort of take over your life, because then you have the chocolate and then you feel guilty about having the chocolate.
Right.
So let's not find ourselves down that road again. I think the other thing is maybe finding a little bit of routine around sleep as well. Again, it's easy if now maybe you're not working, or you don't have to work from home, or you are working from home and you don't have to work till 12 noon to just stay in bed. And I'm saying, again, if you're tired one day, stay in bed, rest, do what you need to do, stay up late and watch a movie. But again, if you can create some level of structure and routine on a more daily basis, and we know that, just like food, sleep can impact our mood as well. And if we're not getting enough sleep, we can feel more irritable, more tired, a little bit less patient with, dealing with all of these different stresses in our lives. Mm-hmm. And I would say the third most important there is some sort of exercise or activity. Not exercise. I'm not telling you go do meditation, go do yoga, go to the gym. Something of an activity that you can go out for a walk, something that gets you going, gets your brain and the blood flowing a little bit, and gives you, again, another sense of structure. And, I would say it's okay now with what we're going through to find things in the day to distract yourself. Mm-hmm. I think it's okay. It helps us get through these hard times.
And I love how you are saying do not compare to others. It's different. And not even to others, to your daily day. Yeah. One day could be different than the other one. Yes. It could be just 2 or 3 different ideas of doing it. But if one day you miss that exercise or that whatever, me time, don't feel guilty. The next day you change it.
Yes, it's about honoring and respecting our feelings, what we're going through, and not judging them. Because here's the thing, and this is the way I put it for everyone. If you reached out to me, Pilar, and you said, Carlos, I've just been having a rough 3 days. I'm exhausted. I've been watching too much news. I'm snacking on my chocolate. I'm not going to tell you, hey, Pilar, maybe you should go out there and go for a walk. I'm going to be like, oh, Pilar, that, I'm so sorry to hear that. That must be really tough. Like, you know what? But I get it. I get what you're going through. And I'm just saying, you know what? Kick your feet up and let yourself rest. But we don't do that for ourselves. Mm-hmm. We are so much harder on ourselves. And so I would say, think about the advice you would give to a friend or a loved one when you're going through something challenging, and learn how to give yourself that same compassion.
Yeah. Sometimes we wouldn't say those words to someone, right? I would like to go back to beliefs. We talked a little bit about it, and some people I have seen in the last week or so, for some people, limiting belief is a concept that they understand, but for many people, it's not even something that is in their vocabulary. They haven't read about it. They don't even know what it is. First of all, what is specifically limiting belief for those of them that don't know? And maybe 1 or 2 that are very common that people are using it on a daily basis and they don't even realize what it is.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So with the word limiting beliefs, there are those belief systems that keep us from accomplishing the things we want in life. In my practice as a psychologist, I use more of the term core belief. That means a belief that is such a strong part of us that we believe it to be our truth. Okay, so I'll give you the briefest example of this. Let's say you have a child that goes to eat with their parents when he's 7 years old, okay? And the parents say, here, we want you to feel like more of an adult. You pick what you want to eat today. So the kid gets excited, says, I want the pizza. And the mom says, you know what? You always get the burger. Why don't you just get the burger? No, the pizza. What if you don't like it? No, I really want the pizza. Dad's like, we're not buying the pizza. It's too expensive. You're not going to eat it all. Pilar, my question is, in that moment, what do you think that child believes about his ability or her ability to make decisions?
It's wrong. What I say is not good. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
They're not going to pay attention to me.
Right. It doesn't matter. My decisions may not be good enough. Maybe it doesn't count. What we know is that even though those are really well-intentioned and loving parents, that message, that child probably heard around their academics, sports, and all sorts of different things. That message heard long enough over our childhood, and it's no wonder that that child would grow up to feel a lot of discomfort when making decisions, a lot of discomfort in uncertainty, a lot of discomfort when things feel out of control. Major life decisions feel overwhelming and anxiety provoking. Not even to get into what that does for our self-esteem and our sense of confidence. So that's a core belief. But because we never think to question that, because my childhood was great, my parents loved me, they put a roof over my head, they gave me everything.
Burgers were delicious.
Exactly. And burgers were delicious, and I did love them. But that's a core belief that sticks with us. So perfect example is now things feel a little bit out of our control, and internally we feel like we can't handle them. And oh my God, what is wrong with me? And so you see how the judgment and all of these beliefs and all of this is tying together. And so that's how those things impact us. So I think there's a really big, value and opportunity in really sitting with some of those belief systems we have and questioning where they come from. Oftentimes we'll see it's some message that we heard early on that, although it was wrapped with love, may not have been the most helpful.
Awesome. Yeah. One last thing, if you would like to add, especially now for this last couple of months, an idea, a concept, even a reading or something that you have seen that is helpful to the people around you and now our viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Pilar, one of the things that happens is when we find ourselves in our most troubling times, it's hard to look anywhere outside of what's happening in our immediate, right? And again, that's the brain saying, I need to figure out what's going on now. I like to help people expand that or to be able to take a bird's eye view on their lives overall. I would say most people that you and I know, most people we know, most people have experienced adversity in their lives already to some degree, small or large. And if we focus on the times that we have dealt with adversity, how strong we were in those moments, how brave we became, how courageous we became, and how we were able to deal with the difficulties, with the emotions, with the people in our lives during those times, I think that helps us put a better perspective on exactly what's happening right now. I promise you that 6 months, a year from now, most people will be able to look back and be like, wow, that was hard. And look at all the things, look at the ways that I was able to handle that. Mm-hmm. And the confidence that brings and the reminder of, again, not positivity, reality, right? And so remind yourself of how strong you've been at other times in your life and that you're actually being really strong right now.
And the kids are learning from that, right? That new generation is creating those core values.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
Very good. Carlos, thank you very much for your time, for your knowledge, for your wisdom. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.